Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and GLC is coming to Pokemon TCG Live, which I'm really excited about. It'll be here for 2 weeks, then it'll go away for a little while, and then presumably it'll come back at some point as well. But the format has a few different rules which I want to quickly explain. First of all, it is singleton, so only one copy of each card, just like the, I believe, Singleton Showdown or whatever the first format was called. Then it's also monotype, so only one type in your entire deck in terms of Pokemon. You can have different types of energies if you want basic energies. Special energies are also limited to one of, but basic energies are not. And then also no rule box cards, no no EXs, Vs, GXs, things like that. No Prism Stars, also no Ace Specs. That's like kind of lumped in there. I think it's technically different, but you're still not allowed to play those. And then it's supposed to be black and white on. There are a handful of bans, but that's not actually the case. I don't believe so, actually. I haven't obviously played it yet because it's not out yet. But on Pokemon TCG Live, the cards black and white and X and Y are not implemented. So you will not be able to play those unless something drastic all of a sudden changes. But anyways, that means that there are a bunch of cards that you can't play in GLC, and I want to talk about that and what this means for the format. We'll start with the general trainers. We'll talk about some type specific trainers as well. But the general supporters, I have 5 here. The first one is N. N is essentially the same as Iono, except that's really hard to search on databases. But anyways, Iono and N, they have, again, minor differences, but it doesn't really matter. So they are essentially the same. The reason why you'd want multiple, though, is because you can only play one copy of each card. So then the support is really good, and you probably want to play 2 copies if you can, but you can't in live. So do keep that in mind. It's not the biggest deal because, it's a supporter that will still be essentially in the format. And then there are also similar supporters. There are cards like Marnie and Roxanne, which are, kind of similar. Also, Cynthia is kind of similar. Certainly not the same, but Cynthia is actually also pretty similar to Colorless, the supporter that says, well, it's a Team Plasma card, but that doesn't really matter. But shuffle your hand into your deck, draw a card for each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. It can be a really explosive draw supporter, or not. It can be bad in the early game if you haven't set up or your opponent hasn't set up. I'm personally not a big fan of Colorless as a supporter, but some people like it quite a bit. It definitely is solid. This isn't like the top tier supporter, but again, it is pretty good. So a bit of a loss for the format. Then we have Teammates. Teammates is an interesting card. If one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn, you get to search for any 2 cards from your deck and put them into your hand. There are similar supporters. Raihan is similar. It's certainly not exactly the same and has some better uses and some worse uses. And then also, I think Rosa is kind of similar as well. That's like a pretty solid supporter, though I'd say like pretty clearly a weaker version of Teammates. And there are, other search supporters, of course, but Teammates is a, meaningful loss for the format. And then we have Bridget. Bridget's a supporter that says you search for 3 non-rule box, or no, sorry, non-EX basics, put them onto your bench. It's the same as non-rule box. It's the same as Gloria, which you can play, and you're probably not looking to play both, but it is a card that has seen play in GLC, certainly. I actually chose this list. I looked through it after, but I got data from Play Limitless, and so some of it is kind of old. Before, for example, Gloria came out, that was quite a while ago by now, but anyways, the supporter is certainly solid and a bit of a something that you'll be missing from the format. But there are some. I mentioned Gloria, but then there are other supporters that are also pretty similar as well. For example, I think Clavel is similar. But anyways, then the last card here is Hexmaniac. Hexmaniac's actually kind of a big deal. It's an ability locking supporter. This card I think is banned and expanded. GLC and Live should be using GLC Gym Leader Challenge should be using the GLC ban list, but I'm not. That's what they said. Also, there was actually a new ban in GLC, or 2 of them, so we'll see if those are actually implemented. But anyways, Hexmaniac is a supporter, again, that ability locks, and so normally you'd be able to play it. It's quite strong, but also it's a unique supporter, but this isn't a video breaking it down. But you cannot play this. You cannot play really most of the ability locking cards in the format either. Well, there's a handful that we'll end up talking about for Pokemon of a certain type later, but we'll get to that. But Hexmaniac is definitely a supporter that can lead to some interesting gameplay, can lead to some unfun gameplay, but I'd say more often than not it's interesting, despite being a restrictive supporter, but regardless, it's one that you can't play, so it does remove something from the format. Then the next set of cards that are also really important are the items. I don't think there are that many hugely important items, like truly core ones, unlike N, which is like a core supporter, but there are still some ones that are really important. Actually, no, Versus Seeker is really important. Versus Seeker is probably better than N. So, but there aren't like crucial ball search supporters or items is what I'm saying. But anyways, Versus Seeker says you get to recover a supporter from discard into your hand. That's really good. Played in like every GLC deck and is quite good in them for allowing you to reuse supporters, which are generally one-ofs, and so that is a big deal. Also, on the topic of one-of supporters, the supporters Lysander, Professor Juniper, and Professor Sycamore you can't play, but that doesn't really matter because they're essentially the same card as Research slash Boss and cannot be played together anyways. Anyways, and then we have Evo Soda. This is like kind of a ball search card. It isn't literally a ball search card. It's not searchable off of Ball Guy or Apricorn Maker if you want to do that. And it's a little different. Evo Soda searches your deck for Pokemon that evolves when your Pokemon and puts it on there. It's not, you need to wait a turn. It's not Wally, which also you can't play, but I didn't include here. Evo Soda is fine. I'm personally not a big fan of the card, but it is a loss to the format. Then we have Professor's Letter, getting energy out of your deck. This is a card that is played in some decks. It's not insane, in my opinion, but it's good, certainly. We do have like Earthen Vessel and other cards similar, though. Then Trainer's Mail is like a turbo card, letting you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and a trainer there. It's kind of like Pokegear. It's a little different, but anyways, that card is good and you won't be able to play it. Then Town Map, which flips over your prizes. I personally also don't like Town Map. I think it's kind of bad in general. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't play it in like really any deck. But anyways, Town Map you cannot play. I know some people really love it. And I've talked about it some in the past. I'm going to actually talk about it again somewhere in the future as to why I don't like it. In terms of like, I just don't think it's super strong, but it is a card that a lot of people play and like to use. Then we have Special Charge. Special Charge is a pretty big deal, letting you, well, I get it. It's generally a pretty big deal, letting you shuffle 2 special energies from discard into your deck. The best special energies you won't actually be able to play. For example, Double Dragon Energy, which we'll get to, as well as like Double Colorless and Twin, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I believe the ban is official and happened. But anyway, Special Charge is still a good item for a lot of different decks. It's not insane, but it's, nice. It's really the only way to recover special energy in a decent way. Then Battle Compressor is a really interesting item. I don't know how much it's played, but it's really cool letting you search for any 3 cards and discard them. This card's really strong in Expanded, but it's like really fun too, in my opinion. I don't think it's overpowered. I know a lot of people think it's overpowered. It's certainly not overpowered in GLC, but it's a really cool card, and I figured I'd mention it. And we have the tools. We have 3 tools here. Fighting Fury Belt. It's Bravery Charm, except you get 10 less HP, but you do 10 more damage. It's a pretty good tool, though it's nothing absolutely insane. Muscle Man, though, is really good, increasing damage done by 20. It's better than Vitality Man. It's like double that. It's a very solid tool. It's not like in every deck, but it's pretty good. Floatstone, though, like really is in every deck. It is a card that gives the Pokemon it's attached to free retreat. Oh, by the way, random fact, these cards are not items. I mean, it depends, I guess, exactly how and where and like when you're playing as well. But in the official rules, these cards have been essentially eroded or changed to not be items. They're just tools now. Not that that really matters, but Floatstone is a card that is really good, right? It's played in a lot of decks, except in live. So there are like pseudo replacements, notably Air Balloon's like the closest one, I think. But anyways, Floatstone is a substantial loss to the format, and something that some decks might miss a lot, or not. We'll see how things actually go, but something to keep in mind. Then we have stadiums. We have 2 stadiums. We have some unique stadiums here. Silent Lab to have basic abilities on both sides of the board. Of course, I was going to say, of course, we'll talk about the other one in just a moment. But Silent Lab is really disruptive sometimes, though. It depends on the deck that you're up against. It technically can have positive use cases as well, but those aren't super common. Then Parallel City. Parallel City is one of my least favorite stadiums ever. Right next to the potentially Tropical Beach, which I was going to include and I don't have. But anyways, Parallel City is a card that reduces the player's bench down to 3. It's only one player's bench. It's a really weird stadium. It's like one-sided, which is like not really how stadiums are, the mechanics supposed to work. But anyways, that's what it does. It has some other effect on the other side, but that doesn't really matter. But anyways, Parallel City is a really solid stadium for disruption. Theoretically can be used as utility as well, but generally a really disruptive stadium sometimes. Again, it just kind of depends, but is a big deal. Not the biggest, but meaningful. Then let's move to the actual types, the interesting stuff. And the first type here is Grass. Grass has two important cards in my opinion. First, we have the Roserade. This is a Pokemon on play. Search for any card. Grass has, I guess, a weaker engine compared to a lot of types. It doesn't have like a true good draw Pokemon. It does have some good. I mean, it certainly has a bunch of good support pieces. Grass is not bad in GLC, but Roserade is a nice piece that a lot of people like to play, and you can't play it here. Then Revitalizer here has its effect on an item which lets you recover 2 grass Pokemon from your discard into your hand. It's not insane, but it's certainly good and a nice upgrade to really the alternatives, the any type alternatives that can be played from stuff like Night Stretcher, Rescue Stretcher, Super Rod. It's not like objectively that much better than any of them. It's not objectively better than I don't think any of them, but it is probably a little bit better. So, an annoying loss, but certainly replaceable. Then the next type here is Fire. Blacksmith is an energy acceleration supporter. It's interesting. I honestly don't know that much about Fire in GLC. It's not like the strongest type. However, you do have this, which is nice, but Welder's probably a little better. Depends on the circumstances, but certainly in a vacuum, Welder's a better supporter. But having that combo is nice, but regardless, a supporter like this, you can't really, build around one card very often, so it's not like the biggest loss, but it is meaningful. And then Delphox, this one I don't really see played that much, but it's drawn to have 6 cards in hand. It is definitely played some. Fire has a really weird selection of draw Pokemon. They have synergy, they have holes in them. It's just really interesting, and Delphox is very consistent, but it is a stage 2. So anyways, you will not be able to play that. You'll have to settle for Magcargo Salazzle, which is still very good. But if you're hit by like a Lake Imayona or something, stuff can go bad as well. Then we have Water type. Water type has, Water type's really the type that gets the most cards and has a lot of really, really good cards. And here we have a bunch as well. There's a bunch that kind of focus on energy acceleration. Blastoise, Articuno, and Starmie. Blastoise accelerates energy, though it's not the biggest deal because you have Baxcalibur. Then there's also Frostmoth, so you're probably fine with those. Most people would just play those two, but theoretically, if you wanted to play Blastoise plus Baxcalibur, you can't do that now. Articuno is a possible attacker in that deck. It's kind of hit or miss. I mean, it's a coin flip attacker, but it can take extra prizes with the ancient trait Delta Plus. Then you have the Starmie, which lets you recover energies. It's kind of like an energy retrieval every turn. It's a little, worse. You need to discard, which is probably bad. But anyway, Starmie is a noticeable loss here. Then we have Splash Energy, which is a recovery energy. It's fine. It's not anything crazy, but it's good. And then we have Octillery, which is a really big deal. This is the water draw engine. This is one of the biggest losses with these earlier cards. Generally, most types don't have massive losses, but Octillery is a pretty big one, as it is the main draw piece of water. There's the Italian engine as well, which is quite good for like setting up, but it's not really drawing you a lot of cards throughout the course of the game. Then we have Dive Ball. This is also a pretty big important card, which lets you search for a water Pokemon on play. It's a ball search card, so it's quite good. Definitely better than really any other ball search card. So definitely a noticeable loss here, but also again some not a deck build around. Unlike Octillery, I don't know if Octillery is a deck build around, but it's like a core card in the deck. Dive Ball is a good card, which you're always happy to see in your hand, and will make water worse not having it, but it's not quite as substantial as Octillery in my opinion. Then we have Lightning. Lightning is my favorite type. We have Electrode and Electric here. Electric is the same as Flaffy with Dynamo to accelerate lightning energies. But you do want both, especially with losing Electrode. Electrode is a draw engine. It's not super good, honestly. It's not played that much, but it's like the second draw Pokemon. I mean, it's objectively worse than Octillery with its draw ability, but whatever. You have the Zebstrika, which is really good. I actually think the Ionos Kilowattrel is decent. However, I think it's mainly decent with the Dynamotor cards. I'm probably still going to play it, not going to lie, but if you have extra energies to accelerate, I think that works better, but you can't do that. You can't play Electrode. So, this is a little annoying for Lightning. Electric, definitely an important card that you're going to lose, and so we'll see where Lightning is. In GLC, definitely my main type if you don't know, and I'll be playing it and see how it goes. Next up, we have Psychic, the other type that gets lots of cards. And Psychic, we have a few major losses. Notably, we have Dimension Valley, which reduces your attack cost for a Psychic Pokemon on Colorless, and it's a stadium, so it's like really good. It's not quite deck build around because it's a stadium, which are less consistent. They can get bumped easier. than like, a Pokemon, right? But or than a Pokemon that sits on your bench. But Dimension Valley still is really good and a big loss for Psychic. We also lose Mistrangy, which is pretty nice as it helps you retreat. It's like the tool card Air Balloon, which I mentioned earlier, which again you're losing Floatstone. Then Garbodor and Wobbuffet, which are the cards I alluded to earlier, talking about ability lock, but you can't play these. They're both solid. They're not like always included, but they are pretty decent. Then and it can be like build rounds if you want to. Then a Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime actually, now that I think about it, like doesn't really matter because there's the Mew, which is the bench barrier ability. But anyways, this is a card that you'll be losing, and it's arguably a little bit better than the Mew, but again, not that big of a deal. When you're fighting, fighting is losing two pretty important cards. Karina, which is like Irida, but for fighting, you get a fighting Pokemon and an item from your deck, putting them into your hand. This is not. It's like it's important. It's definitely going to be annoying to lose, but it's not like it completely destroys your deck. Strong Energy, on the other hand, I think is like one of the core cards to fighting. Personally, I think it's the most defining card in fighting, but that doesn't mean it's literally the best. But it lets you do 20 more damage with fighting Pokemon, which is really nice. And the fighting Pokemon can be a bit tankier, and then like faster in the early game, so you can be getting multiple attacks with Strong Energy decently consistently. And then potentially recovering it. Again, that's harder to do without special charge, but it's even harder to do without Strong Energy itself. So losing this card is definitely, it's not. Um, it's not ideal, right? So, Strong Energy is really nice for fighting, and it'll kind of need to not necessarily completely rework itself or anything like that, but it will be just a bit weaker there. Then we have Darkness. Darkness is a really good type in GLC with a bunch of really good, interesting cards. A lot of them are actually Zoroarks, though, which you can't play most of them that are good. This one, the stand-in one with Mind Jack, is like definitely really good. Also, I'll mention losing double colorless and double turbo, or no, double colorless and twin is not great, but whatever. Then you have Dark Claw, which you can't play. This is the same as Muscle Band, but just for darkness, and you can't play either of them, so that's kind of annoying. Dark Claw isn't necessarily always played, but it's like good. Generally, it's not again insane, but you can play two copies of that. Now you can't play any copies of it, so darkness will need to switch things up a little bit. Literally, I guess you need to figure out how to like switch in your Hoopas. If you're using that with Zoroark, you can't do that anymore. But anyways, darkness definitely has a lot of interesting things to work with, but things that it can't work with now either. Then we have metal. Metal's a type that's kind of interesting. It's losing shield energy. Apparently, that's played a bunch of metal. It's like defensive. It's not insane, but it's kind of nice. Cobalion is one of the only attackers. It might be the only attacker we're covering. I don't remember, but it's like a really solid stats attacker, which you don't normally see in this era because of power creep. And Pokemon just didn't print very strong single prizers in general. I mean, they printed some, but they're certainly, like the meme single prizers now are like they're solid. They're not like terrible cards. But anyways, Cobalion is a card that is a solid attacker, and one that you're definitely going to be missing. Bronzong is the same as Electric, which accelerates Metal Energy. The thing that takes away the sting a little bit of losing Bronzong is that there's some other good Bronzongs. Notably, there's the one that moves energy around, which I personally really like. I think it's a cool card. And so you can play that instead, which is maybe okay. Maybe not that this Bronzong is certainly really good. Next up, we have Dragon. Dragon might actually be taking the biggest hit. It's using double Dragon Energy, and Gabite double Dragon Energy is exactly what it sounds like. It's 2 energy to a Dragon Pokemon, but of any type, of course, as that's how Dragon works. That's really, really good. This is like probably a deck build round. It's kind of sketchy being a special energy that's the deck build round of the type, but it is, and that's not great for you. Then Gabite is also really good with the ability Dragon Call, searching for Dragon Pokemon every turn. This one is good. There's also a good Garchomp. So this card is just like the complete. Well, it's by itself is not the complete package, but with the Garchomp it is. It's a really good Pokemon. It doesn't mill yourself, which is kind of bad, but I don't know exactly what Dragons can do without this. There's also a Reshiram that you can't play that is like interesting. It's not played all the time because you're more so lenient to double Dragon Energy and like the Garchomp line and some different things, and a bit of a slower game plan with a bunch of evolutions as opposed to faster Fire Energy stuff. But I don't really know what Dragon's gonna do. I'm actually really interested in seeing what people are gonna do with this type. Lastly, we have Colorless. No Fairy. Sorry, anyone who wants Fairy, but Fairy, based on the list of like the most played cards in GLC, none of them were Fairy. And also Fairy is like bad, and it also lost like a lot of stuff. But anyways, colorless here, you're losing Winona, which is like Lance for Dragon. We search for 3. Lance isn't in standard, and also wasn't played that much. But anyway, in standard. But anyways, you search for 3 colorless Pokemon, really don't put into your hand. Winona is pretty good. These cards are really good. It's, played in GLC, something like Lance and Standard, again, recently rotated, was played a little bit, and it wasn't super strong, but these cards in GLC are really good, except you can't play this one. Bundled is a really interesting card, in my opinion, allowing you to, it has the ability, or no, the ancient trait, Omega Barrage, which allows for double attacking. Some really interesting stuff you can do with that. I believe it's actually really good and expanded right now, like absurdly good. But anyways, I don't pay that much attention to expanded. I last checked like 2 years ago, and it was really good. So I don't really know what's going on there, but it's cool in GLC. You can do, some different attacks. It's a really fun card, honestly, a card that I just really enjoy. And you will not unfortunately be able to play it. And then the last card is Talonflame. This is a weird card like the Luxray that recently rotated. You can start at the beginning of the game. It's like not super strong, but it's a really fun card, and can be used for some cool combos. But tell me down below which of these cards you're most sad that you can't play, but what you're excited that you are going to play, or if you're not going to play this format at all. But I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all the good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.